Now, here's probably two of the most powerful men in the entire country back in the day. On the left, you had Old Man Daly. He definitely kept the outfit in check. He knew how powerful they were. He grew up in the same neighborhood as them, but still did a good job keeping them in tow. He also had leaders from other countries, other cities in the United States that would actually call him for advice. Then you got the very powerful Mike Madigan, Speaker of the House. He's under indictment right now. Now look at this old bastard, one of the most corrupt mayors, one of the most interesting connected politicians in Illinois, Doc Rust of Willow Springs. He was put in that position by Sam Momo Giancana. He was the mayor of Willow Springs from 1935 to 1969, and then he handed over the reins to corrupt police chief Michael Corbett. Now, here's my favorite politician. He wasn't a mayor, but he was just as powerful, if not more powerful, than any mayor or governor. You got Alderman Fred Rohde. I actually went to his trial. He was escorted to court every day, surrounded by beautiful Italian women. He controlled all your politicians, all your police, all your local contractors. He was also a made member of the Chicago outfit and affiliated with the 26th Street crew. You know, I kind of feel sorry for some of these poor Mexicans that live in the town of Cicero. The Cicero's presidents in the past have been raping the taxpayer people for years. For example, here's Cicero town president Henry Classic. This guy was found guilty of misusing taxpayers' funds and campaign money. He was also a very good fishing buddy with none other than Joey Aiuppa, boss of the Chicago outfit. Here's the longest serving mayor, Nick Blasey of Niles. He served 47 years. He was under investigation in 1979 and then again in 1996. He got indicted for a major corruption probe, did a short stint in prison. He ended up dying at 91 years old. But this guy did amazing things for the town of Niles and was put in by Joey Aiuppa. Now here, corrupt mayor of Rosemont, probably the most important mayor to the Chicago outfit, Ronald Stevens. He controlled O'Hare, and that was crucial for the Chicago outfit to get their people in there and take advantage of all those $1 million contracts going in and out of O'Hare. And in Rosemont, obviously, you got the Rosemont Horizon, Rosemont Theater, Convention Center. You got the casino. This was a cash cow for the Chicago outfit. Ronald Stevens, mayor of Rosemont. Here's the corrupt mayor of Crestwood, Louis Presta, a town I know all too well. My mom and dad owned a roller rink there back in the 80s. Roller wheels on 133rd and Cicero. That was the place where everybody hung out. But Louis got pinched on a red light camera probe case. They caught him on wire, accepting a $5,000 bribe. He ended up doing 1 year in jail. Now, most of us know about the mobbed up town, Melrose Park. And here we got the mayor, Ron Serpico. He was real tight with Pete DeFranzo. And this guy was a real character. He would use racial slurs and insults when he would lose his temper. And him and Chief of Police Vito Scavo, his good friend, were known to harass black and brown people during routine stops. He was actually sued by the state for bullying. Now here's Anthony Ragucci, mayor of Oak Brook. Oak Brook is a very wealthy suburb west of downtown Chicago. $1 million homes. Men like Joey Aiuppa, Joe Ferriola used to have their mansions there. But Anthony got pinched in a camera light bribery scandal. He got caught on a wire accepting thousands of dollars in cash bribes. Ended up doing a little time in jail. Here's Mayor of Chicago Heights, Chuck Panisi, good friends with Governor Thompson, George Bush. He was close with Fast Eddie Verdoliak and was affiliated with the Al Taco crew. When Al Taco got pinched, his wife testified against him, sent him to prison. They went after Panisi and two of his friends. They got him for extortion, bribery, illegal dealings with contractors. He did some time in prison. He got released in 2001. Now on the southwest side of Chicago, you got a seedy little hood called Robbins. At one point, it got so bad they actually couldn't even afford the police force. Their mayor after mayor after mayor continued to steal the taxpayers' money. Every single mayor eventually got indicted. At some point, the gangs actually control the entire town, and hopefully now they got this town under control. Now, here's a guy that handed out multi-million-dollar contracts like candy to all his family and friends. You got Congressman Dan Rostenkowski, good friends with the late Alan Dorfman, who was killed by the Chicago outfit. They eventually pinched him for mishandling $500,000 in campaign funds, like they all do. They got him on mail fraud. He did 17 months in prison, slap on the wrist, got out, and died in 2010. Now, in the early 2000s, I would take my baby daughter deliberately past a club to get the attention from some of the boys, and they would talk about some of the gangs in Chicago. You had the Italian gang, when the First Ward, the outfit ran the city. Then you had the Irish gang, when Daley was mayor. And then you had the Jewish gang, when Rahm Emanuel was mayor. Daley resigned before he was about to get indicted, and Rahm moved on to bigger and better things. Betty Lauren Maltese, the widow of Chicago outfit associate Frank Maltese. I actually went to her trial, and Betty, a mob guy, and his son were convicted for stealing $12 million from the town of Cicero. Prosecutors showed Betty's gambling receipts at Bellagio and Caesar's Palace, totaling over $350,000. Betty and her girlfriends wore Gucci, Prada, and fur coats into court. Now, you will never meet or see a more greedier bitch than this woman. How these people get elected, I have no idea. Rita Crundwell. I don't know how many people remember her, but she was the treasurer of Elmhurst. She stole all alone by herself over $53 million. She showed no remorse and only got 19 years. There's Eric Kellogg, mayor of Harvey, Illinois. Him, his brother, chief of police, and another brother, the three of them, were all indicted on a major racketeering, RICO, extortion, bribery case. They were all convicted, did a quick stint in prison, and probably are still up to no good today. I can just imagine what guys like Al Taco or Nicky DeAndrea would have done to a guy like this. But here's corrupt mayor of Calumet City, Jerry Genova. This guy had a bright future ahead of him, but he got greedy. He got pinched for a widespread corruption RICO case. He was receiving over $125,000 in cash in kickbacks. He ended up getting convicted along with his good buddies. They got sentenced to 5 years each. Now, there's not enough time in the day to name all the corrupt mayors, governors in Illinois. These are just some. But here's another one, southwest suburb, Orland Park. You got Mayor Keith Picow. This guy got pinched for misusing campaign funds, rig bidding, and steering sweetheart contracts to all of his family and friends. Typical duties when you get elected. Can anybody explain how a convicted felon could become mayor? Here you got corrupt mayor of Harvey, Donald Luster. Him, his brother, and friends, their crew, they were indicted on a corruption case for shaking down local businessmen in Harvey, shaking down strip club owners, shaking down drug dealers. They even had their own prostitution ring going on. El Taco used to control this area back in the day. Another seedy, sleazy little town on the southwest side of Chicago, you got Lyons. The mob used to have a stranglehold on this suburb back in the day. And here on the right, you got a high-ranking official that was pinched, was indicted for mishandling over $300,000 in cash, handing out sweetheart contracts to his family and friends. And I think they even got him on a tax invasion case as well. Now, after my girl Betty got convicted for stealing $12 million from the town of Cicero, they elected this guy, Larry Dominic, town president. He was a retired police officer, used to be a garbage man for the town, worked for the city for over 34 years. When he got elected, he put over 20 family members, gave them fat city contracts, as well as all of his friends, spent over $500,000 in taxpayers' money. Now here's corrupt Governor George Ryan. I went to his trial. Him and Larry Warner were giving out CDL trucking licenses like candy, no training, no experience. You didn't even know how to read or write or speak English to get a license back then. All you needed was the right connections and some cash. George Ryan also ran a company called McPier, which was $1 million contracts going to Navy Pier and McCormick Place. Disgraced Governor Rod Blagojevich. I went to both of his trials, 1 and 2, and I'll never forget when one of his aides testified that when the president of the Children's Memorial Hospital was trying to get a hold of Blago for a very important grant that they needed for a hospital expansion, Blago was ghosting him, blowing him off, not returning his call. When the guy showed up at his office, Blago literally hid in the bathroom like a bitch. Now here you got crooked, corrupt Alderman Ed Burke. His wife is actually a federal judge. I remember seeing them in the West Loop one day. Very nice people. Fast forward, he gets indicted on a major RICO case involving racketeering, extortion, and bribery. He was good friends with Alderman Fred Rohde, Pat Marcy, and several other Chicago heavyweights. Here's my guy, Fast Eddie Verdoliak, very powerful alderman in Chicago. I'll never forget, I actually met him in the late 90s at lunch at La Scarola. That's a place where all the heavyweights used to hang out. He's good friends with John No Nose DeFranzo, Mikey Switek, several other outfit guys. He got pinched for tax evasion and siphoning off millions of dollars in several business dealings. Now, back in my day in the 70s and 80s, Wayne Bach, Chicago outfit heavyweight, and Pete Altieri, they controlled Summit. People say, where's Summit? Summit, you go to the end of the world and take a left. Seedy little town on the southwest side of Chicago. And here you got two high-ranking officials just got indicted. I actually went to high school with these guys. On the left, Bill Monday, building inspector. They got him with bribery. Then you got the chief of police, bribery, and filing false taxes. Now, the list of corrupt officials in Illinois just goes on and on and on. There's just too many to name. From congressmen to aldermen to senators to policemen to city officials, public officials, cops. I mean, it goes on. Here's several other people that were indicted and found guilty on various corruption acts. If you like my stories, please hit the like button and share with